I'm reporting on the very last day of the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago, Illinois, and I feel like the entire week I've been very demure, very mindful, very cutesy. But ever since I saw Ann Coulter say this about Tim Walz' son, who is disabled, I'm going to say, fuck that shit. It's all out of the window. Man, fuck you, Ann. Don't nobody give a fuck about a woman who died 10 years ago and is decomposing and still dyes her hair with peroxide in the motherfucking sink. What the fuck do you know about raising children, okay? Childless monkey women for Trump. That's exactly what you are, because you look like the Wicked Witch of the motherfucking West. They need to throw water on your ass and make you melt. We are tired of this shit. And as Michelle Obama said earlier this week, we're no longer going high when y'all go low. We're going to drag your bitch ass to hell where your unseasoned succubus ass belongs. Fuck you.
Relax now. There's no point worrying about it anyhow, 'cause you'll find your way. You'll find your way home.
Welcome everybody to RadPod and Chill. I hope everybody enjoyed Hi-Fi's choice for a public service announcement. I'm Heidi Sigmund Kuda. I'm here with Jim Stewartson and High Fidelity. We just witnessed a very powerful speech by a very powerful and prepared and poised world leader. I'm still catching my breath. You guys just, what do you got to say?
Hold on. Before we get into all that, I would like to say that the opening song was a band from Akron, Ohio called Time Cat, and they're going to be our closing musical guest for this evening. I also need to do a public service announcement for our audience. These are plastic tip tongs, and these are metal tip tongs. And if you are in the kitchen and you are frying something or you are searing something on a very, very, very hot pan with oil in it, use the metal tongs, not the plastic tongs, because if you drop something and it splashes oil, you'll get a terrible burn on your hand. So, metal tongs, people. All right. Had to get that out of the way.
That was our cooking portion of the show.
Hold on. If you're going to be giving safety tips, I need to understand what the fuck you just said. How does metal versus plastic?
This grips meat better. This does not grip meat that well.
Oh, we did. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why? Okay.
So
if you say so, I believe that some of the sticky factor in the plastic may make up for,
No, silicone. I don't have any silicone tip. Maybe I should try this, but I'm still gonna tell our audience, go with the metal. It's worth it anyway.
Okay.
But if you scrape the bottom of your pan, then the people get mad at you for that.
Why aren't you frying in cast iron? Anyway, let's talk about the DNC.
I have a public service.
A lot of non-stick pans these days. You know what I'm saying?
I picked
that coating.
I picked a really bad decade to stop smoking weed. That whole intro would have been a lot easier if I was as high as my co-host. I love you guys.
Hey, that's a good idea.
I'm happy to see you. It was a really incredible week, and I want to talk to you guys about it. And Jim, you were, I know that you were watching everything and paying close attention. So let's start with you about how you feel about what we just witnessed and kind of an overall summary of some of the highlights from this week.
The feels are amazing. I mean, look, I have been around for 55 fucking years. I've seen a lot of shit. I have never seen anything like the last 6 weeks. Never in my entire life. Yes, everyone knows Kamala Harris was the vice president, but most people in the country had their doubts. They did 6 weeks ago. They didn't know who the fuck Tim Walz was, much less any of his kids or, any of that. And I mean, the speed at which, that sort of emotion is taken over is a function of two things. One is a fucking sigh of relief from a long time, and it's no insult to Joe Biden, and I stood behind him with every breath until he made the decision, and I stand by that. But she is a powerful speaker and a powerful person, and it's just not, none of that is deniable. But the other thing, objectively, that has surprised me is how good the fucking Democrats have been. The DNC. I mean, this thing has been really impressive in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But specifically, I mean, this was an absolute psychological counterattack.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
make no mistake. Somebody in this campaign understands the psychology of what's going on in America.
Yeah.
And by the way, and this is important, one theme that you heard over and over again from the most powerful Democrats on the planet was have patience with people who you disagree with.
Mm-hmm.
It gave the example, I think it was Barack, gave the example of the grandmother that that says shit that makes you cringe sometimes, but you don't throw her out.
No.
Right. And that idea of being tolerant to people who disagree with you in this moment, it is insanely important.
Yeah.
Because as we have been professing for years, there's this vast ocean of disconnect, of pain, of trauma between people who've been captured by this crazy fucking cult, and everyone else in the world. And what these leaders were saying, and all like Clinton, like they all did, talked about tolerance for people on the other side. There were 20 Republicans who spoke, including Adam Kinzinger, who is a fucking national
killed it tonight. I
mean, at his age, at his point in his career, to throw away his political future, which is what he did. He just fucking threw it away and got in the trenches with the other team, despite disagreeing with the other team on almost everything, except for the fundamental fucking thing, which is country over party. It's not a slogan to him.
Yeah.
And so, I was extremely impressed with the sort of maturity of understanding that was coming from the Democratic Party. It was joyous, but not at all frivolous. And they went right after it was like the positive version of swift boating, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, they talk about patriotism. Fuck you. We're the patriots. They pretend to care about veterans. Fuck you. Here are veterans on the stage right now, right? And it showed a level of sort of understanding. I am going to tell you right now, I think David Plouffe had a lot to do with that whole thing, because David Plouffe is a savant at understanding psychology. He's the one who got the movement for Barack Obama going in 2008, which is the only other equipment to this in history.
Yeah.
And so, both subjectively, yeah, I feel fucking great, man. But objectively, and you know, it's hard to separate those things, but I've gotten pretty good at it. They really did a great job, and I'm not a Democrat cheerleader by any stretch of the fucking imagination.
I understand.
But I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I love what you said about being patient, because we just had the British political philosopher on, Vlad Vexler, and he's like, you can't pretend away all those millions of people that are still there. We cannot pretend them away. We have to acknowledge they're there. We have to acknowledge that they are going to be in their own trauma and their own confusion over all of this. And I do hope that they caught Adam Kinzinger tonight, because again, when we had Nancy McLean on our show, who wrote Democracy in Chains, the reason more Republican politicians didn't step out in the way he did is because they're basically saying goodbye to the Coke money, and they are basically saying that they are, you know, saying goodbye to the Fox base, which really is their base. And she described it like a pincher, like these politicians are caught in that. So like Jim said, somebody like that knows exactly what they're throwing away, but he really made it so patriotic.
You know who else was great that shocked the shit out of me was Jeff fucking Duncan. You see that guy? The former lieutenant governor of South Carolina, one of the most sort of conservative ass motherfuckers on earth, like really, and he fucking torched Trump and the current GOP party. It was unbelievable. And you know, I've since been told by some people who know about Jeff Duncan's kind of turn that, yeah, Jeff's not fucking around, but holy shit. I deeply admire people like that, even if I disagree with them entirely.
Yeah.
You know, people who have the balls to come out and you know, say, you know, my career was wrong.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I was with the wrong people.
I was very grateful that it was pointed out that Democrats are patriots, because as you know, Jim, what I want out of a lot of this is I want my flag back, you know, like that's ours too, you know?
Dude, and it was USA
all over it.
Like we embarrassed them with our USAs, man. Like that's what I'm talking about, man. We're taking this shit back, and for example, we're not going back.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Very, very simple and absolutely, you know, a great slogan. So, you know, I think there is, I don't know. I was a little, I sort of didn't want to go on right after because I'd be too gushy.
Well, I do want to say, when she walked on that stage, it was just such a powerful moment. Like that felt like power to me. And we need that kind of unity. As Jim said, we have been through unbelievable things in the last 8 years, but in the last 6 weeks. And
you know what? Can I give you my tonight? There were a couple of people that I thought were also really important, which were the attorneys general that they brought up, Dana Nessel and Keith Ellison, two of the most fire-breathing fucking, like, Dana Nessel was incredible, man. She was like, talked right to Donald Trump. You will take this wedding finger off my cold, dead, gay hand.
Saw that. Yes.
I was like,
great. Wow.
It was like, and it's a reminder that attorneys general, that our officials don't have to be fucking meek, both sides, Merrick Garland's, right? And to me, that was a really good signal, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we're not picking like people who are gonna fucking both sides of this shit. We're gonna put Dana Nessel and Keith Ellison, who does not fuck around in any way either, as the people that we're gonna hold up. Because the one thing that I fault Joe Biden and his administration on is the lack of accountability for the last 2 times that they've tried this before, and they're doing it a third fucking time. And the reason they can do that is because we have feckless units in the FBI and DOJ.
Well, and as Craig Unger told us, even if you're not feckless, you might have a boss who is going to take a job at a K Street lobbyist working for Russia, and maybe you already know going in, you know, doing your job is going to be some sort of death sentence. Like, it's a very strange thing to understand the factions, particularly as Craig has been explaining for decades on what's going on in our intelligence. At one point when he was investigating Donald Trump, he's like, I really need to be writing about the FBI because of the factions that he stumbled upon. And then, of course, it all became public recently again with McGonigal. It's not just the former heads who go to work for Russian mobsters. High Fidelity, you should be sufficiently high now. Why don't you chime in?
Hold on. We need to talk about the fact that our current FBI director used to work for a law firm called King and Spalding that did business with who they do business with. Go ahead.
I know
Gazprom and
I know this.
All right.
We may as well just get it out of the way. Just go ahead, High Fidelity.
You don't have to go back there. You just have to look at the idiot right now who's not doing a goddamn thing about anything.
Well, I thought we were going to get our Joe Lonsdale speech out of the way, because of course
the Joe Lonsdale speech.
No, can we save that?
Hold on, are we talking about Mr. Joseph Lonsdale, who, you know, as one of the United States government's major defense contractors, Forbes. Now, this is kind of a baity article. However, his major defense contractor company is associated with a couple of the children of sanctioned Russian oligarchs.
Yeah.
You know why I don't really like this article, though? I don't really like this article because it doesn't mention his business dealings with the Russian Sergei Grishin or the Israeli fellow Dovi Francis in Silicon Valley.
For those who are just tuning in, Hi-Fi has many whiteboards on the tentacles of all these guys, and Lonsdale's always factoring in. So whenever there's breaking news, it's like Hi-Fi is talking about that 3 years ago. So word up to Hi-Fi.
You didn't get Give Send Go in there though.
Well,
if I was going to talk about Give Send Go, then I'd have to talk about.
No.
I'm still a piece of garbage.
So what
I was waiting for it.
What I do want to talk about, though, is that Jim, one of the things I really appreciate, I want to talk about 2 things. One of the things I really appreciate in how you approach your reporting and your research is that you will put content warnings on things. You will put propaganda, chyrons on top of the video. If you have to, you will exit out. You will put laugh tracks on it. But what you don't do is just raise an eyebrow and repurpose the propaganda. And then somebody like me who has not been desensitized by the internet, I see it and I'm scarred by it, and it does its thing, where so many people think they can raise an eyebrow or have a witty line and then post the propaganda that's coming out of the Trump MAGA QAnon cult. And I appreciate the fact that you don't do that, because I think I've been a bit fucked up, as I've been telling you in the last few weeks, because I feel like we're seeing the same tactics of 2016. And I know, as you said, Jim, they're stuck in 2016. We've moved on. But I'm asking the media and I'm asking media watchdogs to please do a better job of asking yourself, do I even need to repost this propaganda? And if I do, is there a better way that I can put it out? Because I'm not happy with what I'm seeing, obviously, on the virtual battlefield, formerly known as Twitter. That's one note.
Oh, that place is completely fucking over.
It is over. And I hear you. For me, I feel like most people, I mean, I always put context.
Yes, you
to
do.
Me, what is important is context even more than warning, right? If you give people a way to understand what they're hearing, it's better than saying extreme content here, because that just tends to get more people to watch it no matter what. It's an old trick, by the way.
Yeah.
The easiest way to get somebody to press a button is to put a giant sign on it that says, don't press this fucking button.
I think you know what I'm saying.
It's a secret of marketing.
Yes. Linda Yaccarino is going to start doing it tomorrow. No, I know what you're saying, but again, I'm just like watching all the same old accounts repurposing and parroting all of the Trump MAGA QAnon propaganda, and that's not helpful. It is helpful if there's context. It is helpful if immediately you know what you're going to be looking at is what I just suggested. Yes, high fidelity. That's part one of what I wanted to talk about.
Well, I think part of the reason the propaganda isn't as useful for stirring up the tribe as it was the first time around, or even the second time around. It's the third time around, and people are burning out. You can only hate so much. You can only be wound up with anger so much until eventually your brain just, it can't stop. It's got to stop cranking out those chemicals because you can't handle it anymore. And that's the burnout of it.
There's two ways that can go, unfortunately.
I want to hear,
that's
Jim.
the problem too.
Yeah, I want to hear.
So we're seeing right now something really impressive, which is I think there's genuinely a moving of the needle in terms of, the kind of net fucking brainwashing that's going on right now, because there's just a different energy in everything, because of what's going on. Where was I going with this, Heidi?
Well, you're basically saying there's two ways to look at that burnout factor of people being outraged all the time.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right, it's all good, bro.
Let's talk about the bad.
No.
Burnout.
Let's let Jim finish that thought, and if you need me to cue you up again, I will, because it's really important. I want you to respond to what Hi-Fi said, because I think there's a possibility that people are burnt out, but you said there's the other way that people go, and that is what I'm concerned about.
Which is more extreme.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got people sort of on the edge, because it's absolutely true that after 8 fucking years of this, people are tired.
Yeah.
They're just tired. I'm tired, and
Lord knows.
and everybody has been waiting for so long for this final event. We're going to have the storm. We're going to have the apocalypse. We're going to have the end times. We're going to have whatever the fuck it is, right?
Yeah.
And they had January 6th. And a bunch of them were told, right, this is the storm. We're going to do it. And they were in the Capitol like, oh, my God, we did it. We did it. And then they went to fucking jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Only the foot soldiers, though.
Right.
But they were hyped up into believing that this was, going to be it. And, they got brought back down again. And, now they have yet another deadline.
Yeah.
And to some extent, this is what all apocalypse cults have to do, because if the apocalypse doesn't come, you gotta push the date, right?
Yeah.
But they don't have anything new, and that's their problem. And I see people like Mike Flynn been trying to push this guy out because they see it, because they
Yeah.
see that people are just getting fucking tired of this same. Even people in a cult eventually will get bored if you don't change something up.
Yeah.
And literally nothing has been changed. So what that does is, and not to be a nerd, but in astronomy, like a black hole isn't actually something that all light can't escape from. What happens is when it gets shrunk into that, it starts to bleed off information and eventually dies out. And it's that sort of bleeding off of energy into the atmosphere is sort of what I'm seeing. It's been compressed into this very intense thing. But the people deep inside it are, it's going to be a way for them to get out. But there are people that are kind of that have been a little bit on the margins, or had started to have doubts. I'm watching it happen. They're starting to kind of percolate off of this black hole that they've been attracted to. And that's a new thing. That's different than anything I've seen. So that's a good thing. But the bad thing is the people that are still in it are ready. Those people are ready. And guess who's ginning them up for so I'll talk about what they're ready for, I guess. I don't want to monologue, but
hold that thought, because I do want to know what they're ready for. I do want to talk about that. That actually played really well into showing some of the statements from Sean Norris, who we interviewed about the race riots in the UK and the network, the global far right network that connects this to basically what Jim's going to inform us more on. One thing that makes so much sense to me, because what I see Trump doing is throwing more aggressive violence at his base. So he has to keep feeding the base. And as I reported a year ago, the metrics on that base have been shrinking. But as Jim was just saying, the diehards are becoming more extremist and doubling down on the extremism. And Trump, as you see, is getting more and more extremist in his rhetoric and what he says, and even the events that he's planning. And so to me, that makes a lot of sense, because he's got to keep, violence being his brand. He has to keep, ramping that up. And so that actually makes sense to me. Unless you guys want to say anything to that, I want to say one more thing.
Well, I think it's more than his brand. It's the plan.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, we have to.
Yeah.
We cannot pretend that's not what this fucking plan is. Like the thing you have to realize is, you don't have a bunch of people out there selling AR-15s with 1776 on them, and a bunch of fucking Russian propagandists talking about civil war, and Alex Jones talking about people moving to Russia. Right? Like, you don't do that stuff unless there's a reason for it. You're pushing those boundaries for a reason. And the reason is because not before the election, but after the election, they are planning on some kind of fucking national insurrection to complement a constitutional crisis that they have already engineered.
Yeah.
And I've been a broken fucking record about this. I'm gonna
keep reporting on it. Keep reporting on it.
Do it again.
Yeah.
The plan is to cause a contested election by bringing the total number of electors under 270 for the winner. They have just today, fucking Paxton, the organized criminal mob boss that has taken over Texas's entire legal
Unbelievable.
system, is investigating people across Texas to find the election fraud.
Yeah.
It like,
It's like
bro,
previews, coming previews of the,
it was more than a preview, because what he's doing is building precedent. He's building material. He's building a case that will what? Go in front of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, look, I mean, Texas is coming back in play. You might not think, oh, whatever.
Right.
But Georgia is absolutely going to decertify their electors. They are going to do it. The election board has told us that they are going to do it. They have been literally changing laws to make it easier. They have, I mean, it's happening. And Georgia has been going purple as fuck. And they absolutely know that they have to have it. And if it goes to Kamala, they're fucked, which is why they've been focusing all their resources, why they've had, you know, they tried it 4 years ago and had not stopped. And so someone still needs to tell me what the alternate scenario is.
Yeah.
To the election board decertifying, the legislature, which is also America first, going along with it, somebody challenging it, going to the Supreme Court, and Bob's your uncle. Yeah. We have a contested election where the Supreme Court and the House and Donald Trump say he's the president, and the entire rest of the goddamn world says different. And that is when all of these the people in that compressed core, that's when they think it's now January 1776, right? I mean, like they will be, and these people have been buying Eric Prince's phones that you can't trace and getting organized for years now,
right?
And so, you know, the way to the thing that I guess people need to understand, that I want people to push for, is going to have a constitutional crisis. The constitutional crisis happened when 6 members of a fucking cult were put on, are now a super majority on that. It already happened. And then they started immediately taking women's rights away and legalizing bump stocks and all this fucking crazy shit.
So
what are they going to do when the Georgia case goes to the Supreme Court? They are going to approve it instantly. It's going to happen. And the precedent has already happened because of who? Because of Roger Stone in 2000. So all I'm saying is, like, I see a train. I see all these great vibes. I see all kinds of good shit. I see Bias out here doing great work. Do not see anybody answering my question. How are we going to deal with these people?
Right. Hi-Fi, you want to say something? I have a comment.
You know, I just want to game this out, because, you know, what's going to happen is this is going to, you know, get to the Supreme Court. There's going to be protests. Those protests are going to turn violent. There's going to be disinformation flying through the information sphere faster than bullets from a bump stock, honestly. And that's going to lead to violence, and that's going to be really, really bad, because I don't like it when Americans kill other Americans. It's just a thing I have. But I think this is a good spot to introduce Sean, because this is what happened in the UK recently with disinformation.
Put out online, particularly then amplified by far-right influencers, which said that the person who was responsible for the attack was a migrant person who's arrived into the UK on a small boat, so crossing from France across the Channel into the UK, and was Muslim. Now, as it turned out, the person who was eventually charged for these killings was a teenage boy from Cardiff of Rwandan heritage. He was not Muslim. He was not a migrant person. He was not someone who had come over on a small boat. But by this point, this disinformation had taken hold. And there was a real kind of surge of anti-migrant feeling, very racist feeling about people coming over to the UK and causing violent attacks.
Trump does that constantly.
Right.
Constantly.
So
no, I mean that is the entire thing. And again, like a great example, I think, of counter psychological programming was getting a bunch of fucking good old boy sheriffs up there from Texas going like, the fuck is this crazy ass Trump talking about? In Texas voice with their fucking stars on, and just being like, they're not, cops aren't like this, right? At least not all cops. And that,
right.
again, that's really important because they keep trying, we're back to blue. Bullshit. You murdered cops. We cops injured on our show from your violence. So don't fucking tell me about how you back in the blue right now when you're by the way, can I just say, while this is going on, what got announced? The J6 awards.
Yeah, right. I know. So, okay, 3 things for me. One is that when we ask for a battle plan about what Jim has been reporting on, and Jim, I ask you to please keep reporting on this daily if you have to, until we see that a battle plan is forming in order to stop this, which seems to be pretty well coordinated and does seem to be that plan you're describing. But I do love the fact that Mark Elias has been hired to ensure that every vote is counted and accurate results are certified. So I feel like that's an indication to me that there is that they understand fuckery is afoot. But the thing that I'm most concerned about, and what I'm hearing you say, is in 1930s Germany, they didn't need a majority. What Hitler did and his collaborators is they infiltrated law enforcement. They got their collaborators within law enforcement, within government departments. And so that is my concern. When you see a convicted felon like Trump, an adjudicated rapist like Trump, doing a press conference with a bunch of sheriffs behind him, that is a concern of mine. Hitler didn't need a majority, and nor did Trump. So, yes, for what you're describing, we need to see a very good plan to ensure that that does not happen.
Yeah, the look, not most cops are not going to get up at the DNC. Let's be honest. But at the same time, most cops are not going to go fighting the federal fucking government either, right? So again, it's really important. However, and this is important, certain swing states like Georgia, there are a bunch of these fucking assholes, like a lot of them, the constitutional sheriffs. And these fucking idiots have literally said, we're going to fight the federal government if you're unconstitutional, according to us, because we listen to some QAnon podcasts. Like, really, like these people are fucking brainwashed. They're just QAnon people.
Yeah.
But they have cops and Humvees and AR-15s. And it's a fucking problem. The nightmare scenario that they want to put in place is, okay, now whatever. So Kamala wins. She's a communist. She's stealing everything. It doesn't matter how many she wins by. They get it in front of this goddamn Supreme Court, who are Christian nationalists in a cult and obviously bribe-taking criminals. Who are compromised, like so the problem is not either the Supreme Court or the violence by itself, is the combination of these things.
Right.
It is the fact that if you allow the Supreme Court to do what it's going to do, all of those people in that crazy ass core are going to feel justified. And in a way, they will be, in a way, right? Because in their world, the Supreme Court of the United States said, your guy is a president. And all these people who've been told are communist, woke, whoever, are telling you different.
Right.
And that is a combustible fire. The kindling, it's all ready.
Yeah. Right.
The good news is that all this has been a rainstorm. Like it has been a fucking rainstorm, and like, you know, the overall temperature has stayed down, and importantly, the bullshit violence they were trying to gin up with the Gaza protesters, none of that.
Nothing.
That did not succeed.
A lot of that had to do with a lot of the counter messaging that a lot of us put out, and we saw them trying. So well done, everybody. That's our friends Jackie and Dave Troy.
Yeah, people are smarter than that now.
Hey, can I just, Jim was talking about corrupted people and criminal people in Trump's orbit. Here's a nice one I caught today from Law and Crime. There's a guy who was importing marijuana into the country before, well, it still hasn't been legalized in some states. And he was also found guilty of money laundering. Donald Trump gave him a pardon after he served 5 years of a 10-year sentence. And he's just recently been rearrested for punching his 75-year-old father-in-law and beating on his wife. So
we've never seen anything like Trump's pardon crimes. Those were that was all just that was completely unprecedented. The criminals that Trump pardoned, he pardoned murderers, Blackwater murderers, obviously traitors. What a nightmare that was. I want to show another Sean clip, but I want to explain who she is first. She's a investigative reporter in the UK. She's also a feminist author who did an amazing book, Bodies Under Siege. Please watch episode 107 of RadPod, because she explains, like I've never heard anybody explain it, how both misogyny and racism are completely linked and connected in these extremist far-right movements. And she does a brilliant job of explaining that. And I didn't want to do it in a quick soundbite, so I'm asking everybody to please watch episode 107. You'll find it at YouTube, Radicalized Truth Survives. But let's see another clip from her focusing again on what happened, because I also wanted to say that the race riots in the UK, and of course a lot of it exacerbated and fanned by disinformation, extremism, all the same people that we deal with here in America were ginning up their, violent rhetoric. But it's just really important to note, like, Elon Musk let all these people back onto Twitter, and it's no surprise that they should be doing this type of inciting. So let's hear what she has to say about that.
The far right set fire to a hotel that was housing asylum-seeking people. With, people were in the hotel when they set fire to it. There were attacks against police officers. In other parts of the country, there was footage of Asian men and, visibly, I'm going to say visibly foreign people and Romanian men being dragged out of their cars as like the far right were going, kill them, kill them. And as all of this was happening, we saw the far right influencers, the feeders of disinformation, the people who are fueling this hate, being very careful about what they tweeted, skirting on that edge of not inciting violence, not committing the actual crime, but making sure that this disinformation and this hate was gathering pace, and so that people were reacting to that information in these violent acts.
I want to say she said something very important that it also relates to this parallel universe that we have here in America. She feels that these riots were exacerbated and borne out of the fact that they just had the first Labor government victory in, more than a decade. And so she thinks that, again, Keir Starmer has been in office like a month. And what do they have? The worst race riots, in recent history. So I think, like, something I wanted to ask both you, Jim and Hi-Fi, about. I've had a hard week emotionally, mentally, and I've learned something about myself because I have been a frontline fighter, counter messenger in this war for 8 years. I find it difficult to actually allow and accept joy and to actually allow myself to feel it, because we have been denied so many joyful moments in America recently because of the immediate cruelty that comes with any joy that we have. So I almost had to sort of retract myself emotionally and kind of, do other things in order to sort of deal with that. And it wasn't something I anticipated. I thought I could still feel joy without the immediate stress of this pattern of, and I'll give you one example. When Tim Walz's child had that beautiful moment that you tweeted out yesterday, my first instinct was to, like, hug him and want to protect him, like, as a mom, for what I knew would be the ugliness that would come out of the MAGA, QAnon, GOP cult shit. And sure enough, that ugly came. The good thing is it was shut down and in some cases deleted, which I haven't seen before. Usually it just gets fanned and fanned and fanned. But I know that's a lot, but I just wanted to express that because I presume other people might be struggling too.
Go ahead, Haifa.
Well, I know people are struggling. I know there are a lot of people who want to get out. I've had people come back. I've got people who are still lost to it, but just a little bit of anecdotal evidence is for business reasons, I had to drive up to Eastern Ohio. And if you may remember, there was a red-haired fellow from Ohio who testified at the January 6th hearings and tried to make his apologies for what had happened. But that's the kind of, it was Trump country. But as I drove through rural areas, small towns, I didn't see a single Trump sign up on anybody's yard. So call that what you will, but.
Well, that's interesting. Jim, thanks, Hi-Fi.
Yeah, I think so first of all, there's nothing abnormal about, you go through a long period of stress and you become wary of everything.
Yeah.
It's fight or flight. There's no other option.
Yeah.
When you're in a constant hyper aware state at all times, wondering, okay, what the fuck are they going to do now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's perfectly normal to be wary, right? It's part of the reason why men are such pussies, is because they get hurt one time and then they do get scared of and anyway, so
Thanks, Jim. No, man, I feel seen. Like, I don't have anybody to talk to really about this kind of stuff, and it's like we've been attacked.
Everybody's feeling it, and look, it is intentional, right?
Yeah.
And again, this is why part of the reason why I feel so objectively impressed is because what they've been doing is systematically giving people to feel permission to feel that again, right? And they came out of the gate with it, but they have been very deliberate about telling people not just be happy. Nobody wants to fucking hear that. But if you give them reasons for it at the same time, and then you model it, and that's the important thing. Can anybody remember Donald Trump smiling? laughing. Literally, think about it. Does not it barely exists in the wild at all, right? And I love Joe Biden, but there is a new thing that's happening here, and it is specifically because they have done a masterful job at giving people the place to feel safe about being patriotic, about all the stuff that used to be perfectly normal, about standing up for a wonderful emotional child who happens to have a disability, who is expressing his adoration for his father.
So
and by
beautiful.
the way, the best way to tell how somebody is going to lead is to look at their kids.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, I've had many employees over the years who have been their own leaders, and their kids tell me everything about who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I find out, oh shit, at the office party, and like that fucking explains it.
You know what this means?
It's like, this is a person who's neglectful, doesn't take care of the people, who doesn't not command respect, but just earn respect, right?
Yeah.
Earned respect and love from his kid, and you can't get that by being an asshole, by being a bad leader. It just doesn't compute.
Yeah.
And so there was I'm landing. Family. That's another one of those programs. They keep trying to take, we're pro family. The fuck you are. The fuck you are. There are so many families up there that those assholes would try to tear apart. And there's nothing pro family about it. You're pro old white man. That's all you are.
Yeah, pro helping
rich
rich people save money on taxes. Yeah.
Yeah, rich old white man. Actually, what I was going to say was, if that's true, if you guys really feel that way, that means that when I do come out to LA to visit, I'm bringing all 3 of my kids.
That sounds great. I love
They
kids.
can meet all 3 of mine.
Well, you know what's funny, Jim, is you actually I have not been able to put words to, I don't talk to people about this stuff much anyway, but I've not been able to put words to how I was feeling this week. And I'm very glad that I did tonight, because I absolutely feel better. Yeah, it's perfectly normal when you've been attacked for 8 years, both on our nation and both personally, to feel like what's next when something good and beautiful is happening. Like, it wasn't easy for me to revel in the joy of it, but I'm certainly going to
it's trust. Trust is a hard fucking thing for people to get back once it's broken, and so I unfortunately I think there's been a lot of frustration. As much as there's been progress, as much as it's been a miracle that the country has been stabilized in so many different ways. Right? There's also been this tension, this underlying, like, we know we can tell this isn't over yet.
Right. Okay? Well, there's these monsters.
And because these guys are still doing their thing.
Stephen Miller, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk. Musk being, as you always say, a quarter trillionaire with a significant,
who's the largest contractor to the U.S. government, and that needs to change.
That needs to change. That needs to change as quickly as dealing with the Supreme Court. Yes, it can, especially with the prosecutor understands the stakes as Madam President. High fidelity. Did you do that final string out clip from Sean? Thank you.
Indeed, I did.
Good.
Let's watch it.
I think is really important to understand about both these riots, but more on a broader scale than modern far right, is that we are looking at a networked movement. And I think this is something that the British, I don't want to say the British media, I'm in the British media, but that Britain has kind of struggled to understand. We've got a very traditional view of what the far right look like. It's men in back rooms of pubs following a leader, having a ruckus. And it's a very clear hierarchical structure. But what we're seeing now is more of a networked online movement, which coalesces not around a leading figure, but around an ideology. And that ideology is great replacement. And what we have at the moment is Elon Musk basically trolling the UK Prime Minister, like in a completely bizarre way. And what does the Online Safety Act do about that? It's a piece of British legislation. It can't touch Elon Musk for saying that civil war is inevitable in Britain. And so I think there's a really, like every government in the world, not just in the UK, is grappling with this issue of how do we challenge the tech giants? How do we protect freedom of speech while also making sure that hate speech and incitement to violence isn't allowed to flourish on these platforms?
Well, that's the whole point of Elon Musk having that platform.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say my meme one more time. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. When oligarchs tell you they're fighting for your free speech, they're really fighting for their right to brainwash you.
Yeah, go
When
for it. Repeat
oligarchs
it.
say they're fighting for your free speech, they're actually fighting for their right to brainwash you. That's what fucking all of these assholes and their bullshit lying about free speech. All that is they want the right to lie to you over and over and over again to the point where you're in an alternate reality and do shit that are against your own interests. Because ultimately, what does this come down to? It comes down to a bunch of rich guys who want to take the rest of your labor and resources. They want to take the resources of America because they see it as a giant pile of fucking minerals and liquid gold. I mean, why do you think fucking assholes out here are liquid gold? I'm going to bring the liquid gold. Nobody gives a shit about liquid gold. We care about whether, we got fucking acid rain coming out of the skies and the planet's burning to fucking crisp. We don't give a shit about adding more millions to you assholes. And yet we've managed to let these people brainwash us collectively.
Yeah.
Into this shit. And what Sean said about great replacement theory is important, especially, Elon Musk and great replacement theory are the same thing.
Yeah,
Elon Musk, everything he does is an attempt to shape people's reality into thinking great replacement theory is real. That there's a reason why he's completely behind these fucking riots in Great Britain, because he agrees with them. He agrees with the great replacement guys. And if you just watch what he does, all the people that he interacts with are white supremacist great replacement theorists. All of them, except for, I guess, when he retweets SpaceX or whatever. Which, think about that. He's got two kinds of tweets. SpaceX, where he's sending fucking human beings into space and stuff, or putting chips in actual human beings' brains.
Yeah.
Which he's just doing.
Like,
What
come
the
on, man. Come on, man.
The thing is, like, okay, if he was actually doing this on his own, it would be one thing. But he's not.
No.
He's doing it through fraud. He's doing it through government subsidies. We're paying this motherfucker to do this to us.
Yeah.
And so
Crazy.
the one thing that I am so, and I'm trying not to get too excited about it, is that Kamala Harris is a prosecutor, and a really good one.
Yeah.
They had some great speakers on talking about.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what Kamala's like in the courtroom, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I'm trying not to get too excited, because what we need is somebody in there who is not going to put up with Merrick Garland, Chris Wray.
Yeah.
And there's no fucking way, you know, unless she completely does something different than she's ever done, which is not fulfill her promises. She's going to go after these motherfuckers. And they went to Russia on several occasions in her video, and she brought up. Sorry, I'm rambling, but
no, I was thinking the same thing.
There was the foreign policy part of her speech, which was towards the end, was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like that person will get the respect of troops,
Right.
no matter what.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly.
Yeah.
So that was.
Yeah.
I would just like to point out.
Thanks, Jim.
Point out the strongest line that I heard from her was, "I know where I stand, and I know where America belongs."
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, I appreciated that. On a totally different weirdo segue, I'm sure that you saw the many faces of Vladimir Putin this week, where it looks like, I don't know if he has multiple body doubles or just has really bad days, but there's a great, I just want to put in a plug for a great Zsa Zsa Gabor 1957 horror film noir called The Girl in the Kremlin. I'm totally having a good time tweeting out that Putin is the girl in the Kremlin, but he's, you know, playing the role of Zsa Zsa Gabor, because it dealt with like Stalin and getting like a different face and blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
he said, but he said for real, not like
oh yeah.
Like body doubles for a long time.
Oh yeah. Like, who's gonna want to go hang out with Kadyrov? Like, who's gonna want to hang out with that guy?
I know somebody who's gonna want to probably do that pretty soon.
Double.
A guy named Andrew Tate.
Oh yeah, there you go.
He's probably well.
You know, can we just? I know the show's wrapping up right now, but can we just say something about Andrew Tate? Because Jim, you were talking about parents and how you can tell a lot by their kids. One of the tragedies is that some parents are actually losing their kids to the Andrew Tates. Like, some people who are actually lovely human beings didn't realize that all the time Johnny was spending on the internet, he was going down rabbit holes and becoming misogynized by Andrew Tate and Elon Musk. And I want those kids back. I want all those kids back. And I want Andrew Tate to be prosecuted for his myriad crimes. And I just wanted to say that.
Andrew Tate's, their new allegation, for those who don't know, there are new allegations that involve kids. And it's not surprising because he's been bragging about it for fucking years.
Right.
Literally, like, I did it. And yet a bunch of people follow this guy around, including he hangs around with Elon Musk and Mike Flynn and fucking Alex,
which really makes you wonder about these guys. Like, what connects them?
And that all of that happened after he was arrested for sex trafficking,
Right.
rape, and leading a criminal gang.
So dark.
The children hadn't been confirmed in charges yet, but the absolute gall of these people to be running around trying to paint other people as pedophiles and going to Epstein Island and all of this bullshit is really, and I wrote a long ass piece about Epstein.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
I went down that fucking rabbit hole, and it's crazy. The number of people who cross paths here, and what emerges when you see it is there's a large part of the kind of gory background of all of this where a bunch of these fucking people are compromised for being sexual predators, including against kids. It's just the case. And if you think about this, it makes some sense, because as I've said for a long time, all these guys are fucking psychopaths. The only people who could ever act out on that against actual children are psychopaths. And so there's a sort of natural Venn diagram thing that happens with a lot of these guys, but I think it's even darker than we've at all uncovered yet.
And I just want to thank you for that. I just want to say Sean said something very important near the end of that interview, which was what unites the global far right, whether it's Poland, UK, US. She said is that they have been in their own minds, these guys, have been preparing for some sort of genocide. And Jim, you've written about this and you've talked about this. And she said January 6th was them living out that fantasy. To some degree, this recent rash of riots is that fantasy. And she said, and what they are plotting is nothing nice. So, well, I want to be joyful and I want to hang on to joy. And I absolutely believe those beautiful families who are willing to put themselves out there to run, to lead America, every single blessing to them. I'm also aware that we are up against something that has been radicalized and put in place for some time that is nothing nice. And I'm going to remain vigilant.
Yeah, it's more than nothing nice. Let's be clear. The really radical right wants is RAHOWA.
Yeah.
Racial. That's their nickname for it. RAHOWA. Racial holy war.
Yeah.
They believe that there is some sort of Christian justification for their white supremacy, and think about the Crusades.
Yeah.
What were the Crusades? They were a religious justification for genocide, and it's not the only one. You got all kinds of genocides, and it's not just Christians,
right?
But that is what is under this, and that's what they all, with not all of them, but a lot of them in those anywhere sort of right of people in Congress wants.
Yeah, you don't talk about rounding up 15 million people if you're not talking about that, and you've got Mike Johnson who thinks he's Moses, like all this crap. So yeah.
Speaking of creepy fucking weirdos.
Oh my God. the bad bones of Mike Johnson.
Get some covenant eyes on there.
Oh my God, we could go on. So I think
think back a month ago to the Republican convention. Can you remember that fucking thing?
Yeah.
And they did some brilliant like comparison videos.
Yeah.
I'm just like this is going to be studied, you know. It's history.
There's never been like more of a clear, just like when you think about Ukraine and Russia and that war, there's a very clear, we know that there's a very clear, like who should win, who should lose, who's good, who's fucking evil. Like it's not hard to figure that out. I think when you see the, speeches from this week versus what Jim was just describing from the RNC, I think there couldn't be more clear choice for America.
We had Stevie Wonder and they had Kid Rock.
I know.
We had Michelle Obama and they had Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Ooh. Speaking, I knew that fucking name was going to come up. Speaking of Hulk Hogan, Mr. Hogan apparently embarrassed himself.
Yeah.
At a bar recently.
That's all he does.
But, well, here's the funny thing about that bar is in a plaza on Route 18 in Medina, Ohio, where I lived from 7th grade until 12th grade and a couple months after that.
Little hi-fi.
Yeah, and it's just funny. My folks still live in that town, and
yeah,
they were aghast at his behavior. So,
well, I think that now that we're back in Ohio, we should end this show. If anybody has any summary they want to say about the DNC, lay it on us now. But if not, I think we should end. There's been a lot of great music out of Ohio, and Hi-Fi just happened to stumble upon another great band. I mean, like everybody. Yes.
Marie asked a question and I forgot to answer it, which is RFK dropping out of the race?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yes. Captain Brainworms is dropping out of the race tomorrow, and the amazing thing was that this news was dropped on this randos podcast by RFK Jr.'s fucking vice president. It was like, I was thinking like there's two options. We could either stay in or not.
Or we could totally put our weight, for Trump.
She was like, what's gonna be better for Donald Trump? I was like,
oh wow. Yeah.
Literally just openly musing with some rando about the fact that they were thinking about not being in the race, and that the only thing that was important was whether it was going to get a better chance of getting Donald Trump elected. I mean, there's no shame in their fucking game anymore.
Who predicted that? Jim Stewartson. He basically said there's going to be like no hiding this shit anymore. There's
and I'll tease this for next time. There's an emerging story of civil war, which is hilarious, which I'm encouraging. In the GOP.
GOP. Yes. That actually, why don't you tease that out?
Well, Flynn and his minions have been going after JD and Peter Thiel. So.
Yeah.
I'm still a piece of garbage.
I am here for the civil war within the GOP.
I was in 11. That was a fucking 11.
11 out of 10. I've been predicting that at some point these people will turn inward and devour each other. If this is the beginning of the devouring, I am here for it. Nothing like dividing and conquering.
No, but like Mike Flynn's mad at Peter Thiel. And I called it a month ago because
you did.
We're getting grumpy around the edges, but they spent like an hour and 15 minutes just dragging those motherfuckers.
I appreciate.
It was weird to agree with like half the shit that Clay Clark was saying, because he was like, "This guy's like the Antichrist," and I was like, "Well."
I think
we're close.
one of the great messages that you put out last week was when you were like, "Hey, see this woman, Hillary Clinton? See her, Mike Flynn? Yeah, you didn't speak at the RNC, but you saw she was invited to the DNC because
I was like, you get to go on QAnon podcasts,
yes,
not be vice president, and she gets to headline at the fucking.
I will never forgive him for leading that lock her up chant in 2016 when he was the one who was committing traitorous and treacherous acts. And he's the one who lied to the FBI about those acts. And he's the one who would have been locked up had Sidney Powell not entered the picture and Donald Trump not pardoned him, not Hillary Clinton. So,
I would like to say
you
something.
do this. You're like, I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk. And don't.
I'm going to talk. I got two things. Well, actually,
oh my God.
And I'm going to end on the third. Here's the first.
Okay.
The first is
oh my God.
I'm going to talk directly to Mike Flynn and the people who work kind of below him in the hierarchy.
Okay.
It's very simple. When Kamala Harris wins the presidency, it is best not to fight because she is going to come for you.
Ooh, okay. I love that.
There has been no accountability for the planners, the financiers, and those who executed the coup of January 6th, aside from, as we said, the foot soldiers, which everybody seems to be so hoorah about. No, I feel bad for those people because a lot of those people, they were twisted by their own beliefs. They were the victims of their own beliefs. Some of them
are some of them violent criminals, but
some of them are violent criminals.
Okay, what's number two?
All right. Number two is here's my review of the 2024 DNC. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. It seemed a bit like a party to me because in the great scheme of things, what that really was soldiers getting ready for battle. There's 73 days to the election, and there's 130 some until the inauguration. When the inauguration comes, hopefully that's when this will be over and accountability will finally be had.
Word.
Enjoy your dopamine. Enjoy your rush. Enjoy seeing the display of power that was. But there's a fucking battle ahead, so stay on your toes.
Okay.
And the final thing is here's my donation to the DNC playlist. This is Akron, Ohio's Time Cat with Bad Scene.